It's beer o'clock, and this is the beer o'clock show, and I can't fucking talk.
You're listening
to the Beer O'Clock Show. You're listening to the Beer O'Clock Show.
It's beer o'clock, and this is the beer o'clock show, where every week we take a particular beer, taste it, talk about it, and all that kind of stuff. My name is Mark, and joining me is my beer buddy, Steve. Hello, Steve.
Hi, Mark. How you doing?
I've been sick, Steve.
Yeah,
I've been
yeah.
really, really sick.
Yeah, we all know, mate. We all know the conclusive results of the poll were that you need to man up. Actually, it's
I'll put
not
that
a
down.
lot of love for you there, I'm afraid.
Down to your poisonous words over Twitter, I've been very
I don't think
poorly.
I don't think they were poisonous. I think it was to the point, wasn't it?
How have you been? Because I've been sick. How have you been?
I've been absolutely peachy, mate. I've just been getting on. I've been drinking great beer and I've been having a good time. Rock and
Very
roll.
good. Rock and roll. This week we've got a very rock and roll beer. It is from Sam Smith's, the most rock and roll of breweries. The
Absolutely.
organic
The
chocolate stout, which is their 5% stout. So we'll be
the
getting to that in
craftiest of crafty breweries.
I know. We'll be getting to that in just a little bit. But before we do that, Steve, how's your beery week been, mate?
It's been really good actually, mate. Before I get into it, we've got another little correction to make from last week's show. We pronounced someone's name wrong again, and I do always like to make sure that we do correct that when we pronounce people's names wrong. So Phil Kite on Twitter, apparently I was struggling to pronounce his Twitter handle. He's actually the Great Cubio, not the Great Cubio, which is I think how I pronounced him on last week's show. So apologies for that, Phil, and consider that the only apology you're ever going to get from us. But yeah, no, beer wise, it's been a fantastic week, mate. We entered beer of the year territory this week with
Oh, wow.
Brewdog's latest Born to Die release, which is their terminally hopped IPA, which has a 35-day shelf life on it. It's the second time they've released one of these this year. The first one was back in July. This one was Born to Die, 27th of the 11th, 15. Needless to say, I ordered mine on the Tuesday. It arrived on the Thursday, and I drunk it all by Thursday night. Absolutely stunning. Where the one that they did earlier on in the year was maybe had a little bit rough around the edges, a little bit of an alcohol burn to it. They had sorted all of that out, and this was just smooth, hoppy, beautiful, big IPA territory. And I instantly drank it and was like, yeah, that is very much beer of the year territory for me. So that's been the real highlight, I suppose, in terms of what I've been drinking this week.
Okay.
You've been poorly, so you've drunk nothing, have you?
Well, I was out last week.
Oh, okay.
Because we had a leaving do, so I went to the old fountain off City Road in London. This was the night before my deathly man flu kind of started kicking in. So I managed to get a few beers under my belt before I crawled into my deathbed. Some of them were alright. So I had the 1103 session IPA from Brew by Numbers, which was pretty nice. That's their Mosaic one.
Mm-hmm.
Cloudwater Bitter.
Oh, okay, yeah,
was,
yeah.
A highly drinkable bitter. And a beer that I checked in with the word perfect, and it was, which was from Colonel, the Export Stout, London 1890. And it was hugely boozy and stouty, and I was making people sip it, and that you could see their toes curling just from the strength of it, and it was just spot on.
Yeah.
A great little beer.
Did they have any of their own brews on? Because they've just started brewing downstairs, haven't they, in the old fountain? So
Have they?
yeah,
Didn't notice.
because I was in there last week as well. And yeah, they've just started doing small batch brewing in the basement. So
Well, they didn't have any up because I just go by what's on the board, so they didn't have anything up on the board.
oh, okay, maybe they
I
were between
noticed.
batches.
Maybe.
Um,
Uh, That's a shame. I'll have to pop in again sometime soon and
Yeah,
see if that.
keep your eye out for it because I think it's like a range of cask stuff that they're doing that quite literally is brewed in their cellar and then they're selling it upstairs. So
Oh,
it's worth you and any of our listeners that go in the old fountain. I think they're down as I can't even remember what they're called now, but it's a fairly obvious name linked to something like Fountain Brew House or something like that.
right.
And up on the board, they tell you how far it's come and where it's from, and it simply says downstairs next to it. So it is quite cool, and definitely worth checking out.
Okay. Well, I will do that. Anyway, you got any beery news for us, mate?
There is quite a bit of news this week, mate. Yeah.
All right, here's some pips. Beep 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 beep.
Okay, to start this week's news, there's only one word for it: cannonball! Cans.
Oh, here he goes. He's chugging one now.
It's finally here. I've been so happy this week. Yes, you couldn't have helped but notice that Magic Rock have finally got their cans out to the public. Cannonball, Salty Kiss, and High Wire Grapefruit are all now available from a range of suppliers. And particularly from our point of view, you can get them from ours by mail, and you can use the 10% discount as well. But it was like all of my Christmases came early and came at once this week when they were released. I was also lucky enough to get over to the brewery this week as well for an interview with not just the guys from the brew team, but the guys from the tap house as well. And you can listen to that at the end of tonight's show. Listen to us talking all things Magic Rock in preparation for us descending there on the Friday before the Crimbo Crawl. So that's the first bit of news. Actually, I'm just going to have another sip of Cannonball just from. Okay. Next, the next point, or the next item of news, we've got our next live event next week, which we're doing at Hot Burns and Black, which you'll be able to hear the results of in January. And it was just to say we are doing a very exclusive beer as part of that tasting. We're doing the Yeasty Boys PKB Remix 2015 Dark Matter. There are only 2 kegs of this in the UK. Hot Burns Black and Black have got one. The other one's in Leeds, and we're getting to taste that at next week's tasting. Unfortunately, all the tickets are sold out now. So when we told you a few weeks ago that you should have got in quickly, you should have got in quickly. But you'll be able to hear us talking about that beer in January. Brewdog have been in the news for a number of reasons this week. I'm not going to give them more airtime than they deserve. They've opened their new bar in Soho. James Watt has now released his book, Business for Punks, Break All the Rules the Brewdog Way, and they released another controversial beer that got everybody talking about them on Twitter. Next up, another thing that was all over Twitter this week is the new homebrewing system that is going to set the world alight, apparently. This is called Pico Brew. It's a self-contained home brewing machine which uses pre-packaged pods to brew beer like you'd make a cup of coffee. So you know these coffee machines where you put like a pod or a capsule in and you get coffee out the other end? There's now a machine that does that with beer. How good is that? Honestly, how good is that? At the moment, it's only available via Kickstarter, where it retails at $499 if you want to invest. Eventually, it will increase to $1,000. But if you want easy to make beer at home through a pod and taking all of the unnecessary faff out of it, you might want to invest in one of those. And then finally, in this news, the long-awaited. Now, this is something time and time again. Waterloo in London is a bit of a desert for good beer. There's nowhere really around there, and there's been talk for a time of there being a craft beer house opening up around Waterloo. Well, apparently the Waterloo Tap, which is part of the same chain as Euston Tap and Tap Leeds and York Tap and all the rest of them, going to be opening in March 2016. So anybody travelling in and out of Waterloo will have options for decent beer.
Jolly good.
Yeah, and then just one more thing. I might have said that about the last item, but just realised there's another one. You would have seen on Twitter this week the launch of Manchester Beer Week. So this is a kind of a thing in the same sort of vein as the London Beer Week that takes place in August. This will be running from the 10th to the 19th of June in Manchester. The guys that are arranging it are currently in the process of securing commitments from various breweries and getting partners and sponsors on board, but they're welcome to get anyone involved who's interested in just getting involved in that week. So they're encouraging people to get in touch. Website will be live before the end of November, but in the meantime, people can follow them on Twitter at MCR Beer Week or on the Manchester Beer Week page on Facebook. But it's going to be massive. Knowing what the breweries are like and the scene is like in Manchester, it's going to be very well supported. It's very much going to be worth getting up there between the 10th and the 19th of June. So keep your eyes out for more details about that.
Cool. I'm sure you'll manage to be up there for work at some point.
I think I might have already arranged to be sleeping in a certain miserable Mancunian's spare room. So
Who could that be?
I don't know. He's been on the show a few times.
Right, shall we get into this week's beer, buddy?
Yeah, let's do this because it's a big bottle.
It is a big bottle.
A bloody big bottle. It's I think it's full pint, isn't it? 550ml, isn't that almost pint?
It's getting close to a pint, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is Samuel Smith's Organic Chocolate Stout, a 5% stout. We've both had this before, but just the once, I think.
We have. We're
in a Sam Smith's pub.
In one of the Sam Smith's pubs, and I would say that we probably had it far too cold as well because it came straight out of their fridge. Didn't take away from any of the aroma, but certainly took away from some of the flavour. But I've just poured this into my glass. I mean, the minute I've cracked the top, I've got nothing but chocolate pour out of that.
Oh yeah, that's what I remember.
That bottle. I mean, this is
bunged up, and I can smell the chocolate coming off this.
This is a beer that has been on our hit list probably since that first time that we tried it in the bar. But it's one of those that it's not the easiest to get hold of. It's very difficult to get hold of online, and you very much have to be in the right bottle shop to be able to get hold of a bottle of it. And we were lucky enough to be in a bottle shop early on in the year where it was there, and we grabbed a couple of bottles. So it was like, right, got it, put it on the list, let's do it. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this.
And this is a style. Amazing. Yeah, this is a style that long-time listeners of the show will know that this is my unicorn that I've been hunting, the perfect chocolate stout. Yeah. And I remember really liking this, and this was, in my memory, this is the standard I started having for chocolate stouts. So we'll see if my memory is just, rose tinted or not.
This could be the end of a long quest tonight then, mate. What happens if we find the perfect chocolate stout for you? Is that it? Then, does the beer o'clock show end there?
Then we start looking for a better one.
Oh, okay. Let's. I like your thinking.
Just like the show doesn't stop when you discovered Cannonball.
That's true.
You're not looking for a better Cannonball.
No. That's I'm just looking for nano cakes of Cannonball now. Yeah, more. All the Cannonball, every bit of it, all of it.
Anyway,
yes.
This isn't about Cannonball. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, mate. Oh, yeah. It's like drinking cold hot chocolate. That's all I can say, really. It's
dark, cold, bitter hot chocolate.
Yeah, it's a mouthful of chocolate.
Yeah, lovely chocolate coming over, very sticky, very sweet, but with an undercurrent of roastiness to it as well to give a little bit of bitterness. Yeah. So it still tastes a little bit like beer. But I remember when I first had this, because we had this on one of Vic Norman's Dragon Flagon walking tours that we did. We actually did a Beer O'Clock show one with him a couple of years ago, and he knows that I don't like Sam Smith's beer generally because he always takes you into a Sam Smith's pub because he loves Sam Smith's.
I think all of his tours visit one of the pubs in London. Yeah,
indeed, yeah. And I generally their beers I don't like, especially way back then because that they had a wheat beer that we tried, and I wasn't really into wheat beers and all that kind of stuff. So he took me took us into the Sam Smith's pub and told me to try the chocolate stout. And I tried it, and I remember sitting there going, "This is amazing." And this is living up pretty well. Some lovely chocolate flavors coming through. It's not being killed off. It's not. The chocolate isn't just being a guest to a roasted malt beer. It is very much standing up and being part of the name and part of the flavors that you would expect it to be as a chocolate stout.
Absolutely, yeah. The chocolate's the star in this. It's the thing that comes through. You get hints, and it is just real minor hints of booziness around the edges. There's a little bit of a roasted finish, but there's hardly any bitterness there. It's very smooth at the end, and it is very much just like drinking a hot chocolate, but in beer form. Everything about it's pretty much perfect, actually, in terms of a chocolate stout. I don't think there are many out there that are much better than this.
No, I mean, I might even go a little bit to say that the chocolate is perhaps a very touch too sweet, so it's not complementing that roastiness, 100% perfectly, but it's there at 95%. It's got those lovely sweet chocolate. You drink a chocolate stout, you want to taste the fucking chocolate, and there's so many chocolate stouts out there that just taste like roasted malts, and there's no sweetness, there's no stickiness, there's no chocolate. It's not like you got a whisper bar in your mouth while you're drinking while you're drinking a stout. You are generally just drinking a stout with most chocolate stouts.
It's very much I would say it's very much a milk chocolate stout rather than it is a dark chocolate stout, and that probably leans itself more towards the sweetness that you was talking about. Maybe some of that sweetness is a little bit of vanilla coming through in there as well, which
there is a touch,
it's just the flavors coming through. I mean, yeah, it's an incredible beer. It's one that, and like you said, a lot of people turn their nose up to Sam Smith's beers and their pubs, but you go into one of their bars and you can order a pint of lager for about £2. I think no word of a lie. You're getting stuff that's direct from the brewery. They only serve their own product as well in the bars. It's when you start buying the bottles over the bar that it's expensive, because the bottles are expensive to buy from the bars. But if you can find a good bottle shop that stocks them, they're well worth a try. And I know at the moment they've just released, because they always release an annual Christmas special beer, and I know they've just released their 2015 Christmas special as well. So that's out there as well if people wanted to give it a go. Yes, it's a very traditional brewery. It's not the sort of brewery that we normally feature on the show, but it's an incredible chocolate stout, and I would suggest that people actually seek this beer out, and if you sit in a bottle shop, buy it and enjoy it over the long, dark winter months, and just, revel in all those flavours that are coming through in every sip in the glass.
Indeedy. That was a pretty easy review.
It was. It's bang on. There's not much more you can say about it. It's a
not really
chocolate stout. That's all it is. It's not pretending to be anything else. It's not a barrel-aged chocolate stout. It's not a coffee chocolate stout. It's not got chili in it. It's just a chocolate stout, and it does what it says on the tin or on the bottle in this instance.
And for once, that's good. You don't want to be surprised by beers too often. Sometimes you just want what you've been promised by the label.
Absolutely. If a beer tells me it's a chocolate stout, then I expect it to be a chocolate fucking stout.
Indeed. Oh, do we have an Instagram of the week, mate?
Of course, mate. Twitter has been awash. Twitter, Instagram has been awash with pictures this week. There could be only one, though. Let's be honest. It was always going to go to a can of Magic Rock beer this week. At Fantastic Film, a picture of Cannonball in a can. You are the proud recipient of yet another great big box of nothing, which will be heading your way soon. And if anybody else fancies their own shot at their own great big box of nothing, put a picture up on Instagram, use the hashtag cheers guys, and if it catches my eye next week, you'll be winning the empty box and the prizeless prize and all the adulation that goes with it.
So, mate, hot topic. Do you have a hot topic this week?
Yeah. Talk about setting Twitter alight this week with the hot topic. I don't know whether it was because it was different time, different day, that I just caught people at the right or wrong time. But this week's hot topic was: is the hype surrounding some beer releases all part of the fun or rage worthy? To which a lot of people had comments on. So you might just want to bear with us on this one. I'm going to give a few views because I think they're all relevant. And that'll give you some time to compose yourself to give me your thoughts on it. So on the side of some of the hype being rage-worthy, Miles Lambert, our number one fan, is becoming increasingly bored of overhyped beers, as it seems to happen so often now. Typically, there's always one beer being hyped. Mark Landels at Landels, don't believe the hype unless you want to, in which case it's perfectly acceptable to believe the hype.
That's very democratic.
Yeah, really sitting on the fence there, Mark. Matt Chinnery, the half pint gent, wouldn't say it was rage worthy. At the end of the day, the beer should be good, but certain brands hype their beer beyond its quality. Pete McCary, you have to ask whether breweries or beer geeks are creating said hype. Some breweries excel at social media and we lap it up. Either way, it can be irritating. Pete then goes on to say that on a positive note, were it not for the hype on Twitter over the last week or so, he wouldn't have known that Old Chimneys were releasing this year's Good King Henry Special Reserve, and he would have missed out on it. So sometimes it can help. Nick Payne at the Mighty Jag. It went too far with this year's Rainbow Project. I think people bought the hype rather than the beers. And then finally, on the side of being rage-worthy, Gareth at Kolu Leeds. Most of the excessive hype is consumer generated. Sure, breweries make a big deal of new releases, especially if it can be matched by a beer, even if it's excellent. And most of this year's most hyped releases weren't that excellent. So that was all the people kind of on the side of things that are a little bit bored with hype around beers. On the other side of things, it's simply all part of the fun of drinking beer. Martin Oates, if the beer matches the hype, it's all part of the fun. If not, it's just cynical marketing. The product should always lead. James Loach, if it's about what's in the bottle, exciting, collaborative or innovative beer, then it's fun. Cloudwater got involved in this as well, which was nice for a brewery to get involved in this. They're not sure whether brewery-generated hype is ever a positive or a useful thing. However, what happens after that is beyond their control, which is a good point, actually. It's is it about the hype that the brewery creates, or is it about the hype that the community creates? Bob Maxfield, it's all part of the fun. It's the excitement of trying something new and the fun of chatting with the beer community. Mr. T-Belly, who's got one of the best Twitter handles I've ever heard, at Mr. T-Belly. That's brilliant. Definitely all part of the fun. Some of it's marketing, some of it's community generated. Lou on Brew, long-time listener and supporter of the show. Many of us are always looking for something we haven't had before. Nothing says hype like terms new and rare. It sells beer, and who doesn't love to be a beer gathering with lots of like-minded beer lovers? Matt Curtis got involved. Matt's been on the show a few weeks ago. It's just marketing. It's how the industry works. It's up to consumers to be more mature about it. Getting excited about good stuff is just human nature, and that's okay. Because essentially, us getting excited is worth thousands to a brewery in marketing, and that's always important to keep in mind. Which is again lends itself to it's okay for a brewery to start hype, but once the community continues it, they've kind of done their job. Phil Elliott, a bit of hype is great. Too often a brewery makes a great new beer but doesn't shout about it. And then finally, that random bloke off Twitter can't keep his nose out of anything. Justin Mason, it's all part of the fun. Life's too short to get worked up about a beer release. Besides, there'll be another one next week. So, mate, what were your thoughts? Hype surrounding beer releases, part of the fun, or do they just get a bit boring?
I can't believe I'm going to agree with Justin. I mean, at the end of the day, folks, it's just beer. It's not that important. And we'll probably get a lot of angry tweets about that. But, I've seen a lot of overhyped beers and I've tried them. And the Twitter echo chamber is a dangerous thing to be within sometimes. What is really good is seeing the community rally around something that is really exciting, like Magic Rock coming out with canned beers, or an event that's going on and stuff like that. But a particular beer, unless it's something really outstanding like Good King Henry one, which is a limited release. It's very highly recommended and rated. Otherwise, it's just chances are I won't drink it, so I'm not going to get worked up about it.
Well, you'll be pleased to know that we've been making full use of the new Twitter polls, and 72% of our followers agree with what you're saying, and agree with the large majority of people that it's all just a bit of fun, and the hype isn't about getting rage worthy. And I think if you look in this past week, there have been 2 examples of beer being hyped on Twitter. The Magic Rock cans being the great one. If you were to look through Magic Rock's Twitter timeline, you'll probably find about 2 tweets about the fact that the cans are available. If you scroll through your timeline on Twitter now, I dare you not to find a picture of one of those cans being posted in someone's feed. Very much community generated. And then the other side of that is obviously Brewdog and their new beer release this week, which is called No Label or something like that. All Brewdog generated hype, and then a lot of negativity about it from the community on Twitter. So it's kind of like it is some roundabouts, but I think it's interesting, and I think this week's been great because so many people got involved in Hot Topic this week, and that's what we want Hot Topic to be about, a little bit of debate outside of the show that you and I can then bring into the show to talk about. And let's keep it going as well. If people have still got views on this week's Hot Topic, tweet us, use the hashtag Hot Topic, let us know what you think, and there'll be another Hot Topic coming along. The Hot Topic will be back for you to get involved in.
Yeah, at the end of the show, after the tinkly music, we have an interview that's somewhat related to one of the hype topics at the moment, don't we, Steve?
We do, yeah. As I mentioned earlier on, I got over to the Magic Rock tap room this week. I was lucky enough to sit down with Stu, who's from the brewing team at Magic Rock, and we were having a chat about the history of the brewery, then moving to a new facility, cans, what's next from all that sort of thing. We also had a chat with Duncan, who manages the tap room, about what it means to a brewery to have a tap room and how important it is as a showcase to their beers. And that's just as a bit of a precursor to the Friday night pre-Crimbo Crawl that we're doing on Friday the 18th of December. All the details are on the website if you want to have a look. But make sure you hang around to the end to have a listen to the Magic Rock interview.
Indeed, and don't forget you can get your beers from Ales by Mail. Beautiful beers, beer merchants and eBrewer who all now offer a 10% discount to Beer O'Clock Show listeners on any beers from the website. So check out all the details on our beer list page at beeroclockshow.co.uk. You can also find us on Twitter at Beer O'Clock Show, on Instagram at Beer O'Clock Show. Steve is on Untapped at Beer Show Steve. He's just licking his chops from more cannibal that he just scolded. And I'm on Twitter and on Untapped at Beer Show Mark. Next week, bum 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 bum, is the Imperial March Homebrew Special, Stevie.
It is. It's the what's very rapidly becoming the highlight of the season for most people. It's the Homebrew Special. Got a slight twist on it this season though, mate, because we're bringing back 3 people from previous homebrew specials to see how things are going with their homebrewing now. But in a slight change to the way we normally do things, we dictated what it was that they'd be brewing, and we told them all that what they had to brew was Imperial, and it had to be black, and it had to taste like oranges. So I'm really looking forward to the outcome next week, and I'm really looking forward to welcoming back Adi Goodrich, Andrew Hobbs, and Andy Parker to the show to share with us their brews in what we're calling the Imperial March.
Indeed. Right, well, I think that about wraps up this week's show, mate. Thanks very much.
It's been the absolute highlight of my week, mate.
And my apologies to everyone for it being slightly late, but I was sick, you see, and we couldn't record earlier in the week.
Hashtag man up.
Hashtag poor Mark, hashtag angel. Right, until next time, buddy. Cheerio.
It's Beer O'Clock, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome to the show Duncan and Stu from Magic Rock. Guys, welcome to the show.
Hello. Hello.
We're going to do a bit of a two-part interview today. So firstly, we're going to have a chat about the brewery and how things are evolving, and then we're going to talk about the tap room and what that's bringing to the setup here now. So Stu, give us a little bit of potted history of Magic Rock.
Right, so Magic Rock was founded in 2011. We started brewing in June. Was it April maybe? April 2011. I think we launched in June, that's why I always get confused. We started with the first sort of 5 beers we made, which were Ringmaster, Rapture, Highwire, Cannonball and Dark Arts, which still all heavily feature in our main lineup. We slowly expanded over 4 years. The first two and a half years were the periods we added tanks into the old site. We went from 2 fermenting vessels at the start and added fermenting vessels 2 at a time up to 8, giving us a 4 brew a week, 200 hectolitre capacity in the fermenting space. And I guess the move was a long time coming, because we were looking at an old different site across the road from here, which fell through, and we then had to start looking for somewhere else, and this site came up. We're still quite a long time in the planning of the whole thing, and we'd already ordered all the new fermenting vessels, brew house, and a lot of bits of equipment that we had waiting, and so finally getting in was really great.
Mm-hmm. So you're in the new brewery now, and it's obviously a massive step up in terms of size. What does that mean to you guys now? What does that, obviously it allows you to produce more beer, but what else does it allow you to do that maybe the smaller site didn't allow you to do?
Well, there are a couple of main things we wanted from the move was bigger brew house capacity to be able to brew more beer, but then also the space to be able to add more fermenting vessels. We didn't really anticipate how much we'd want to grow at the old site, and we did make more beer there than we ever thought we would do. With the new site, we've got a lot more space for bigger fermenting vessels. We moved 6 of the old fermenting vessels from the old site, which are small, and if we take those out for almost the same footprint, we can put 3-4 times bigger tanks in. Mm-hmm. We also wanted the space for the canning line. That was always our long-term goal. We started looking into the canning side of things about 3 years ago. The other sort of canning really, a lot more fermenting space, and then really the other main thing was driving force behind it, looking for the right space and the right location was the tap room.
Okay. Let's just talk cans for a minute before we chat to Duncan about the tap room. And unless you've had your head buried in the sand for the last few weeks, you couldn't have helped miss that they're now out in the wild. Firstly, that must be finally a massive relief for you guys to have them out there.
Yeah, it is definitely. It's been a long time coming. Even from moving in the brewery and the first brews here being in July, having all the canning line on site but not actually being able to do anything with it was pretty frustrating. We still had a lot of services to put in. We've been constantly a little bit understaffed as well through the whole process, and finally getting it up and running and tweaking a few bits on the line to make it work properly and minimise the wastage and get a nice efficient running on the machine has been really good. And just the cans coming out literally last week. The first 3 runs of Cannonball, Highwire, Grapefruit and Salty Kiss. It's been fantastic to get them out at last.
And what's the reception been like? I mean, stuff that I've seen on Twitter, everybody's raving about them.
So far, very good. I don't think anybody's really had much of a chance to drink them before last Saturday night, only like 5 days ago, really. They've just hit a few shops and wholesalers, distributors, and the website now. I think they went live yesterday, so I guess people might start getting deliveries tomorrow. Okay. And be drinking them at home this weekend, I guess.
Marvellous.
We'll see.
I've got to admit, I was straight online yesterday buying mine. So, and I've just had the delivery notification, so they should be chilled and ready to go at the weekend. So, obviously, you launched with the 3 beers there that you said. There's obviously plans to put other beers in cans in the future?
Yeah, definitely. We're planning on testing the can labelling machine we've got in a few weeks. Give us the opportunity to do some really small batches of barrel aged beers. Maybe occasionally some of the other brands that we don't want to spend a lot of money on getting a big batch of printed cans on. We could do some of the other regular brands. We've started initially with 330ml cans, and we have got all the change parts for the machine to do 500ml as well. And at some point next year, there's talk of a couple of the regular brands, maybe Simpleton, maybe regular Highwire, something like that, going into 500ml cans.
Okay. And what about where does this leave things like the specials? So Unhuman Cannibal, Bearded Lady, Strongman even, which we've only seen once, and I'm kind of hoping that's coming back at some point. Where does it leave these beers in the future? Are you looking at cans for those as well?
We haven't fully decided on what we're going to do with Unhuman Cannonball for next year. I think that's going to be the next, potentially one of the next specials that we've got to think about. Are we going to get the old bottling machine out or can? The thing with the old bottling machine is it'll limit the numbers on the bottles. We can potentially brew a 5,000 litre batch of Unhuman Cannonball next year. If we were to can it, we could get a good 6,000 or 7,000 cans out and still have plenty of kegs to send out to on trade. Yeah. Whereas if we go for bottling again, because it's a pretty slow manually operated machine, it's possible we'd only do maybe 2,000 bottles at most, maybe probably less than that actually. So I suppose it depends what people want.
Yeah. I think it'd be great to be able to get it to more people. So
yeah, absolutely. That's what we want. Really, is more people to be able to try the beer.
Yeah. And if
have access to it.
Cans is your preferred packaging now as well. If you can get it into cans. And
the canning line is a much more efficient machine than our little hand bottling line. So as far as the quality of the beer is concerned, it would be a lot better, far better than our bottling machine. The canning lines would have a lot less dissolved oxygen pickup, which would so the hop character would certainly be better for longer.
Okay, so you mentioned that obviously with the new site comes the tap room, and that's where we're sat now, chatting, hear the music in the background. It's a great little environment that you've created here. What does this add to the Magic Rock offer?
Well, I think I was brought in from helping out with bars in Manchester, and Rich Norgate and Rich Burhouse, the owner, went over to the States and sort of took quite a lot of influence from over there. And there's only so much you can do to an industrial unit, but I think we've done a pretty good job. I was sort of Rich Norgate has been involved from a design perspective, but also the aesthetic of putting it all together. And it's just a really all-encompassing, quite comfortable space, really. And 200 capacity, 11 beers on all the time, and it's just I'm quite biased, but it's quite a nice place to be.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree. Sort of sat here enjoying a beer with you now. How important is it for you to use the tap room to showcase the Magic Rock beers?
Well, one of the first things that we talked about with employing staff as well was just this is the face of the brand, the Magic Rock company, and that's the first time they've sort of put themselves out there, and I think that's it's a brave move to sort of do it, and it's quite a bold statement of what they've done here. But the staff are great, and they're well aware that they're the first point of contact now for Magic Rock, because not normally if you go to a Meet the Brewer event, or maybe if you go to a beer festival, you'll have a chance to chat briefly with the brewers or with the owner, but now you've got a full opportunity to sort of get the full Magic Rock experience, and it's right here in Huddersfield, and it's good. It's an honour to be asked to represent. It's good.
So you say you were brought in from elsewhere,
especially imported.
Yeah. Obviously that you must come with some experience in terms of managing bars. How is managing a tap room any different from managing a normal bar? Is it more of a challenge?
Well, I was more involved with the events and marketing side for 3 bars in Manchester and the Indie Man Beer Con Festival, more from an events management background. So when I first took this job, I was quite honest and said I'd never pulled a pint before in my entire life. So, so Rich sort of put faith in me, and that, you know, and that was good honour to be involved. But yeah, managing this space, it sort of, you know, it sort of does its own thing, and it's sort of living, breathing as the beer brews in the background, and you know, event schedule is coming into place with the quiz and with music festivals and food festivals and the Rainbow Project. It's just growing all the time. It's only been, what is it, Jude? You know, 3 or 4 months at the moment, and it's just like we're still learning how to use the space. And so far, so good. You know, it's I think it's different from a bar in Manchester because Huddersfield doesn't have anything like this. So, and I think the best thing about this place has been word of mouth.
Yeah.
You know, there's no flashing signs outside. There's been no advertising at all, really. And you know, Magic Rock as a brand has a good following. But the people of Huddersfield are just sort of talking amongst themselves, and that's the best way, you know what I mean? This place talks for itself, and people talk for us, if that makes sense.
Have you found that you've captured the local audience, or are people travelling from away to come and visit? Is it becoming a bit of a destination for beer people?
Definitely. I think between 70 and 80% of people here are sort of newcomers, like all the time. On an average, you know, an average sort of Saturday afternoon is our main trade, and it's like 20% regulars, and 80% sort of new people. It's a destination place. You know, we're a bit out of town, so you have to make a bit of an effort to come here. And because they've made the effort, I think people appreciate the space a bit more because they're, you know, we've no passing trade or anything really. Yeah. You know, we're in Birkby, a 10-minute walk out of town, and I think we keep the locals happy. The people that come here, you know, we always chatting to them and stuff, and they're always sort of really interested in what's going on. And no, it's good. It's quite a healthy community to be involved in, definitely.
And how important is that food and beer offering together on a weekend for you?
Yeah, it's big. I mean, like now we're Huddersfield is in a perfect location between Manchester and Leeds, because I've got quite a few Manchester contacts from the bars over there with the food side of things, and then we're cherry picking from Leeds and Manchester, the street food scenes over there, and it's just like it's like I'm like a kid in a sweet shop sometimes, picking all my favourite bits of food that we want over. And the food and drink festival we did in August was amazing, and we've got a festive food and drink festival on the 12th of December, and it's really important. It's like food keeps people here, and it just works really well.
So in addition, you say you've got 11 taps running here. You've got the standard growler fill option as well. How important is that as a part of the business? Is people being able to come in and take the beer away to drink at home?
Yeah, it was one of the things that we did quite a bit of training on, and it's big in America, but I don't think it's that big in this country. There's elements here, there, and everywhere, but I think, you know, we only fill our own growlers. We want traceability. We're about quality, and we want our beer to be represented the best way it can be, even if it's leaving this building, you know. We did quite. Stu helped set up this bar in regards to the mechanics, and you know, he was quite adamant about how growlers were filled, and we're always checking quality and stuff like that. And it's sort of an investment piece, isn't it, buying a growler, because we only fill our own. You know, we explain it to people and we think it's a bit expensive, but in the end you're saving a bit of money on the growler fills and stuff, and you get to take home a bit of magic. And before the cans came, you know, our first shipment of growlers sold out in 2 weeks, in the first 2 weeks of opening, and it was quite a positive sign. Definitely. It's good.
Okay, so looking into the future, what does the next 12 months hold, firstly for the brewery?
We're looking at the moment at scheduling in some of the upgrades we want to make to the equipment we've got so far, just improving efficiencies and the capacity of the brewery. Switching out next year, we'll be switching out some of the older 25 hectolitre fermenting vessels for 100 hectolitre fermenting vessels to give us an increase in capacity. We're also looking at scheduling how we increase the production in the brew house as well, not actually the volume but the frequency we can brew in a day, adding brew house vessels, more efficient mashing and lautering techniques, and then through to the packaging side, adding in more efficient carbonation methods and transfer methods from tank to either canning or to the kegging lines, and just a slow, steady increase in capacity. At the same time, adding a few extra bits of equipment in the lab so we can keep an eye on what's going on, make sure we've got the quality control and quality assurance that we need to have.
Yeah. And what about the tap room? Continue to go from strength to strength?
Yeah, I mean, around, this is sort of start of November, and we don't want to look on the negative side of things, but you're sort of expecting a downturn in business, but it ain't happening at the moment. So we've got the quiz, which started tonight, and that'll be fortnightly, and we're going to have some live music events happening in the New Year's, DJs. Yeah, as I mentioned before, the festive food and drink on the 12th of December. And yeah, we'll be up on Christmas Eve, Boxing Day. We've got New Year's Eve planned with the Combe Valley Funk and Soul guys, and I'm really interested to see the space evolve. The first exhibition launched last Thursday as well. We have bike displays on, and like 200 people here. It was amazing. It was so good to see the space used in that way, And brewery tours will be next year. Yeah, we'll go for next year. Yeah. Brewery tours, official brewery tours will commence on Saturdays and Wednesdays, probably from next year, and we'll just see what happens. It's sort of the honeymoon period is sort of over a bit now, and then let's just sort of onwards and upwards with it, really.
Okay, guys. Well, listen, I appreciate your time. I'm going to let you get back to your day jobs of brewing beer and running the tap room. Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.